it's the perfect time to talk to the Minority Whip, Eric Cantor. Eric, thank you very much for being with us today. We are waiting for this number because it could be a huge indication as to how things are going in the economy. Just how important is the jobs number this time around?
Good morning, Becky. There's no question that we were all anticipating what hopefully could be a better report. I mean, all of us are looking to see that there are more jobs created and people get back to work. But everyone that I speak to just has this incredible amount of uncertainty surrounding the future of our economy. There is so much uncertainty connected with the agenda and the bills being passed in Washington, and even more so about the regulatory process that has to implement the regulatory reform bill, about the process implementing the health care bill. But Becky, I think where the concern really lies in Washington and the job creators that I'm speaking with is this prospect that taxes are going to go up this year. And that matters a great deal when one is thinking about committing capital and hiring folks. And right now it seems that the Obama administration and the majority in Congress are looking to do just that, which is to raise folks' taxes.
Do you think that there's an argument that could be made that these taxes could and should be raised a year down the road if the economy looks better? Is this simply an argument against doing it while the economy is in such turmoil?
Well, you know, Becky, I don't know if I agree with that because, listen, you know, the money is going to be spent somewhere, right? And do we want the money being spent out of Washington, or do we want the money being spent by those who earn it? And it's as simple as that. And I think most of us can come to an agreement to say that Washington really doesn't have a revenue problem. It's got a spending problem.
Well, it's got a revenue problem, too. I mean, it's dropped to 14% of GDP from 18%, right?
Well, but listen, what we've seen is this exponential growth in spending going on. And the more Washington grows, the less capital there is out there for the job creators to commit, to take the risk, to innovate. And we're going to have to make a decision in this country.
Well, excuse me, do you have any proposals about out-year cuts in entitlement expenditures? Because if you were to say, look, let's keep that tax cut in place, we don't want to raise taxes now or ever, but we've got a list of things that we'd like to cut on the expenditure side in the out years. Well, you know, you retire at 73 instead of 69.
First of all, let's just talk about these so-called tax cuts. You know, if you look at the entrepreneurs and the small and large businesses out there, nobody's getting a tax cut. One of two things is going to happen in January. Either taxes go up or they stay the same. And I think
no, I agree. Listen, I want my taxes to stay the same. I agree with you.
Right.
I'm just saying, if the contention is that we have a large expenditure problem, can't you attach to this and end the debate some cuts in out-year entitlement spending? Well, you're saying we need to cut spending, so let's cut spending.
Absolutely. Listen, we've got spending to cut in the short term, and what we've got is a huge problem in the long term where we've got to get serious about it. You're absolutely right.
But we could get serious about it now. In other words, there's nothing preventing you from saying, I would propose that we cut 10 years out expenditures on Social Security by blank. You could do that today. You could put out a press release.
I don't think that I don't think there's any question that people looking at the situation know we've got to protect the retirees who are currently enjoying the entitlement benefits on Medicare and Social Security, those nearing retirement. But for the younger workers out there, we have got to address this situation, or they are not going to see an entitlement program when they retire. It is that simple. And in fact, within the statute, benefits will go down. So there are a variety of plans on the table to do just that. In fact, I've served on the Ways and Means Committee for several years. We actually had a markup of a bill that would have tried to bend the curve on the issue, but simply there is a lack of willingness in Washington, certainly with the current majority in Congress, to do anything meaningful. But that's what the investor community's got to see, is a commitment to long-term address these situations.
Representative Cantor, macroeconomic advisors earlier this week in the story we broke here on CNBC calculated that the GDP impact of letting the tax cuts, the Bush tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans expire in 2011, 2012 would be 0.2% of GDP. Is that acceptable to you, or do you believe it'll be worse?
Well, what I can say is this: if you allow the tax rates to stay the same, again, not call for a tax hike, you most likely aren't going to see a significant shift right now in economic activity. But I can assure you, if we allow taxes to go up on job creators, it will be a devastating blow to those entities and individuals that we're counting on to actually get back in the game and create jobs.
Geez, you know, if you were to marry an assertion that we want to keep those taxes unchanged with bending the curve on those out-year entitlements, wouldn't that square the circle in terms of how the majority is coming after you?
Sure. Well, listen, there's no question. Long term, we've got to do that.
No, I just meant tactically in the short term.
I would say in the short term, there is a lot of spending cuts that we could implement. And in fact, if you've seen over the last 9 weeks, we've had one vote a week on the House floor brought forward by the minority, by the Republicans in the House, amounting to $120 billion in cuts. Now, listen, you asked, why can't you just do it? There are enough votes, certainly, if we had some agreement, that we even have to address the short term. But look what's happened now. Speaker Pelosi has called us back into session because there's a so-called emergency for us to extend the stimulus spending. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go next week and follow what the Senate just did and spend $26 billion for a package to bail out states. And they're claiming it is a package to provide aid for teachers. But let me tell you something. We know money is fungible at the state level. This is a fact that states have now built into their budgets the assumption that Congress will continue the stimulus spending. That cannot continue.
All right. Congressman Cantor, we want to thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it.